Look at that Toronto Raptors front court. 85 points between Pascal Siakam, Kawhi Leonard, and Serge Ibaka. And that's your key to the game, despite the fact that Giannis scored 43 points, hit 3 for 5 from three-point range with 18 rebounds.
He did what?
Yeah.
He hit 3 threes?
Let's get to that second. Let's go with the winners first. How impressed were you from Toronto's front court, having 3 guys score more than 25
I was
points?
definitely impressed with this front court. I wanted to see how this game was going to play out. And you know what you're going to get from Kawhi. Kawhi having 30 doesn't surprise me, but when I look at Pascal Siakam with 30, 25 from Ibaka, that is what's really encouraging for Toronto moving forward. Seeing Siakam continue to grow is what I think is really going to make this team have a chance to really go far in the playoffs and have a chance to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. Because this kid's confidence is growing. He's getting better and better every time I see him. And on a night like tonight, you see that he can be a difference maker when called upon.
And he and Leonard again tonight, spectacular together. Total 60 points between the two of them, really pushing one another. They did a really, really good job as a team. Mid-fourth quarter, there's a 3.5-minute run from about the 7-minute mark to just under the 4-minute mark, where they go on a 17-4 run, and they really shut down the driving lanes for Giannis. They closed down the paint. Milwaukee had been able to do anything they wanted to do in the paint in the first half. They really limited them in the paint in the second. And then you saw Toronto get out and run. They really flipped the script on Milwaukee. What Milwaukee's been great in doing is limiting opponents' points off their own turnovers and limiting fast break points. And both of those, Toronto rang the bell tonight, and it made all the difference.
So when we look at the Toronto Raptors and what they were able to do up front, and we look at what Giannis was able to do, hitting 3 three-pointers. I mean, he's only hit 12 all season. We've heard it over and over again. Oh, if he can just hit the three-point shot, maybe we started to get a glimpse of it tonight.
Well, and he's willing to take them. He's attempting to get better at that particular thing, and that's a big part of the battle. He's taking them in game situations against quality opponents. He's not afraid of the moment, and because of that, he's improving step by step.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. You're not gonna, you can't hit a shot if you don't take it. I think that's part of the problem. We would say up there in Philly, where people are waiting for Ben Simmons to take a couple of threes. We know Ben Simmons is going to struggle shooting the 3 early on, but he has to take them, and that's something that Giannis has realized early in his career. And he hasn't shied away from taking the 15-footers back when his 15-foot jumper was scary. And he slowly but surely got better in that area. And we're seeing the same thing with his three-point shot. He's not going to go 3 for 5 every night. But slowly but surely, he's working at getting better and better at his craft, and he's eventually going to be a credible three-point shooter.
Well, let's take a look at some of the highlights from tonight's game. It's seen right here on NBA TV.
Let's go.
The Raptors and Bucks, and those two guys, Giannis and Kawhi, did not disappoint. It's Giannis that strikes first.
Nice pass from Bledsoe. Giannis knows how to finish inside.
And then it's Kawhi finishing outside. Got to stop ball on the break.
Pull up. You don't see anybody take the shot. Kawhi, very smooth to transition.
And then it's Giannis with the jumper. And one. Still inside the paint, though.
Oh, yeah, listen, he's a master inside that paint. That's what he does. That's where he lives. This is what I like. Grown man rebound, grown man finish.
Kawhi Leonard, 17 points in the first half. Came out looking to keep his team in it. Raptors down early. Giannis had 18 points the last time he faced the Raptors. Had 18 points in the first half.
Brendan, it's a subtle thing, but Giannis on that screen actually makes contact, and that's what frees him up. Too few wings, when they set a screen, actually do that.
Look at the score as we are into the beginning of the second half, because that is where the Raptors really made their mark.
Ibaka.
Serge Ibaka there, and then Serge Ibaka outside.
I love how Serge has been playing this year. This is the best Serge is looking probably like 5 to 6 years. Very confident, looks very confident in this system.
19-2 Raptors run. They're ahead by 7. Then Giannis, the evolution of his game.
Oh, don't dare him to shoot. He likes it too.
Giannis, 18 points in the fourth quarter. 3 for 5 from three-point range.
That's the one that surprises you, when he does it off the dribble.
And that gave Milwaukee the lead But after Danny Green hit that shot,
UNC
the Raptors-
legend.
Say it again.
UNC legend, Danny Green.
Raptors go on a 15-2 run. Pascal Siakam, career high, 30 points, Griff. He was incredible.
And a season high 3 threes tonight as well. Again, he and Kawhi playing well off of each other. The dish from Kawhi on that play.
Giannis putting up MVP numbers. 43 points, 17 rebounds. But we say that in a losing effort because Kawhi Leonard, 36, 6, and 5 steals.
I mean, that's good defense. That's a contested J off the dribble.
Great defense, better offense.
So Toronto getting their first win of the season against the Milwaukee Bucks, 123-116. Griff, stop me if you've heard this before. Jimmy Butler not happy about his situation. Why is this different than any other time we've heard this from Jimmy Butler?
Well, if you've just suspend the fact that it's Jimmy Butler and you don't think about what's happened to him historically in the past to get to this point, this specific episode is not that unique. This happens often. Players will challenge coaches in meetings during film, etc. It just doesn't get out. To me, what's significant about this issue is not that it's Jimmy saying he's uncomfortable with the offense, because I would bet Jimmy's had conversations with Brett Brown where he's shared these thoughts privately as well. He's probably told Brett when he came over, look, I run hot. This is how I work. I'm really competitive. I'm going to burst out once in a while. Come back at me the same way, because I know he wants you to push back just as hard. What's meaningful to me is it got out. And that, to me, is representative of the fact that there's been some discord there already. They've already had issues with the fit of Joel and Ben Simmons a little bit. They've had issues along the way where people aren't necessarily happy with the fit and role. And when you're 25-14 and you're playing as well as they're playing, it's unusual to have that level of discontent.
I agree with you. I'm a little bit worried that it got out. But we've seen the situation before with Jimmy. Some stuff has got out. My biggest thing that worries me, though, is this is Jimmy's third stop. Normally in baseball, they say 3 strikes and you're out. And he's had problems, whether it be with young players, coaches, other star players, at every single stop. There was rumors that him and Derrick Rose had a little bit of a riff. Same thing with him and Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins. Now we see this here with the coaching staff. We see the situation with him and Embiid a little bit. Seems like they're going back and forth. I just see a lot of smoke. And for somebody that is going to be up for a maximum extension, you would think that Jimmy Butler would be on his best behavior. If I'm some of the other teams in the league and I'm thinking about throwing max dollars at this guy, that has to be a red flag. I have to start to consider maybe this isn't the guy. Maybe I go after somebody that's less talented but more tolerable in my locker room, because money just makes you more of what you already are. This guy has been here 6 weeks and he's already cutting up, talking about he needs the ball, challenging the coaching staff. What do you do and what do you think is going to happen if you give him $200 million? He might cut a slam full.
No, and I think that's true, and certainly because it's Jimmy, you do take into account the history. But I do think it's incredibly common for these conversations to take place and for players to be uncomfortable with their role, particularly when the fit of the pieces is as wonky as it is in Philly. Everybody wants things to be a little different. You remember earlier, Joel was not happy that he was playing so far away from the rim, and the reason they were doing that was a la Brook Lopez, they were trying to open the floor for Ben. So there's already those seeds of discontent. So what Jimmy then ends up doing is he makes the situation seem much worse. But I think there have been several times in the league where you thought it was a brush fire and there wasn't even smoke. And if it wasn't Jimmy Butler, I don't think this is even a story. But because it's Jimmy, that's the story. And to me, the story is it got out and they're unhappy winning this much.
I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me, because he had the problem with Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota and who was the guy. And now we see the situation here. I can't be used like, whoa. When you're not the guy, you have to figure out how to play with the guy. It's the same thing that we experienced in Cleveland. Kevin Love was not happy with his role. He didn't challenge Blatt. He didn't challenge T. Lue. He eventually figured out how to play with LeBron James because he was not the best player on that team. I don't know if Jimmy Butler has gotten that memo that Embiid is the best player on that team.
But
and that worries me, once again, if I'm another team or if I'm a GM thinking about throwing this guy money. Like, if you're the Lakers and you're going after Jimmy Butler, is he going to get in line with LeBron James dominating the ball out here? Like, these are all the questions that you have to ask yourself when you bring Jimmy Butler in here. He is costing himself money by the day.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the costing himself money thing. If it gets out that Philadelphia does not offer him max, it will be a very bad sign. And other teams around the league will wonder what's wrong. And they will agree, well, this is a problem for Jimmy. But if Philly is going after him full bore and they're offering him max, I think that will be something that teams sort of mitigate. And Kevin Love, you're right. He wasn't initially comfortable with his role, and it took him a long time to find peace with what was being asked of him. He was still voicing it. It's just that he had a different style of doing that. He approached it differently. You have to know that Jimmy's going to be a guy who's going to be all fire and come at you direct all the time. That's who he is. So, again, if he had not had the issues he'd had, I don't even care that he's uncomfortable where he's at right now. It's fine. But to your point, because he's done it so many times, he could potentially cost himself money if he doesn't eventually assimilate and be somebody who helps them win basketball games.
I just think that one of my favorite boxers is Miguel Cotto, and he had a line when he was talking to another fighter. He said, in every fight I was in, I've always known what side I was, whether I was the A side or the B side. I don't think Jimmy Butler realizes sometimes what side he's on. He's the B side. He's acting like he's the A side. You can't come in here talking about, hey, I want to be used this way and I want this, that, and the third. This is Joel Embiid's team. You need to do things in a more diplomatic type of way. You need to talk to Joel. You need to figure out how we're going to play together. But you have to understand, everything runs through the big fella. And I don't think that Jimmy Butler is all the way on board with that.
So, Brendan, we've fully explored Jimmy Butler's side of this, but you see the Brett Brown quote on the screen. I didn't think it went over the line. If it did, I would have addressed it.
He has to say that, though.
So for Brett Brown going forward, the rest of the guys on the team, whether it's Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons, the other people he has to deal with, is this something that may hamper his job going forward if Jimmy Butler is able to speak out in this way and there's not repercussions?
No question. We don't know if it went over the line or if it didn't. But here, let's just say for devil's advocate, it went over the line. He's officially just lost that locker room because now no one respects him. If it went over the line and people think it went over the line and then he comes out and covers and says, oh, no, it didn't go over the line, it's okay, and he doesn't check Jimmy, now people think you're soft. And now what happens, the ripple effect is when Brett Brown wants to yell at Landry Shamet, he's going to be looking up there like, you don't talk to Jimmy like that. Don't come at me all hard. Don't with all that fire. And coaches slowly but surely, the trust erodes away and people just start looking at you like, yeah, whatever. And that's what happens. And that's part of this as well. Jimmy has to understand when he does this, it's not just about Jimmy. That's part of the problem. I think he's living in a Jimmy world and he's only thinking about Jimmy Butler. He's like the NBA's version of Antonio Brown.
We talked about this when they brought him in. They were absolutely increasing both their ability to be really good out of timeout late and design some things that opponents can't deal with. And they were also really increasing their volatility. And Jimmy brings that 100%. There's no question because of how hot he runs. I look at this, though, and I think a team that's this good, they're 25-14 overall. They're playing at a very high level in general terms since Jimmy got there. When you come into the season with the expectations they had, and the only thing that's going to spell success for you is making it to a finals or at least an Eastern Conference Finals, you're either all the way with me or you're all the way against me. So where this becomes interesting is come trade deadline, if they've got people in that room that are against them, they need to act on it because that's the one thing that unequivocally derails a season. This kind of thing is adversity, which is opportunity. You galvanize from this or you get radically worse, but at least it reveals something to you. Where this becomes actually meaningful, and I liked his quote saying what he said, but when this becomes actually meaningful is, A, if you're right about losing the locker room, which certainly I don't think you can say he's done to this point, but if they're not all the way on board with what's being asked of them as a team, then Elton Brand's going to have to start to jettison some of those pieces who aren't. And that's when this becomes intriguing to me.
Well, that's the problem. I think the pieces that you're talking about is Jimmy Butler.
Wow, and they just acquired him, 21 games ago?
It was all good just a week ago.
Mavericks one of those games, one of 8 games tonight. Also, the Raptors-Bucks, this game we're waiting for 8:30 right here on NBA TV. That guy, Nikola Jokic, had himself a game. Highlights coming your way.